So, good afternoon, everyone, for joining us for our monthly Prop Funders community webinar. Again, really do appreciate those who have taken the time to joining us live for this broadcast stroke webinar, as we call it. The main purpose of doing this is, as well as being live, because it's always better when you're being recorded live and interacting with the audience live, is that we do record it. And then we break down a lot of the content into shorts, into educational pieces, and it allows us then to get the value of the recording, as well as interact and follow up with questions and answers, etc. So again, massive thank you for those who have actually joined live. There are loads who would love to join, but just through their commitments and meetings and travel aren't always able to. And we're always getting requests for when's the recording. So the recording will be on later on this afternoon on our YouTube channel. For any new guests in the room for the first time today, we don't use the chat box. Use the Q&A. So if you have a question or you have a comment you want to make on something that's been said, please leave your question in the Q&A. And then Pam, who's the guest today, who'll introduce in a minute, and myself can deal with that question as we go along. It's easier to control than trying to follow a chat. So again, thanks everyone for joining. We do encourage participation, so please make your comments, make your questions, and we'll get through this, which I know will be extremely valuable. And why I know it's going to be valuable is I'm going to jump straight to here to introduce our special guest today. Pamela Lindsay. I think you prefer Pam more than likely. Pam, you prefer that, do you, than your full name?
Pam's fine.
And I think I just usually call you Pam. So Pam has 30 years in property. I struggle to believe that though, Pam. Like you must have been in property since you're about 5 years old.
Hmm.
Must have been. But 30 years in property, a portfolio of over 10 million. Pam's the owner of Bespoke Property Training, but also starred on the property TV show Four in a Bed. So making the big debut on the screen. Very popular around the speaking circuits. Has got her own social media groups, her own training groups. And Pam, I think we first met, goodness, was it be 2018, 19?
Oh, yeah. It's been a while. Yeah. Doesn't time fly, Dave?
Yeah. Well, it was definitely pre-COVID because it was at a John Corey Property Fortress
Yeah.
event.
That's it. John Corey. Is he still around? Still in the UK?
No, he went back to America just pre-COVID and decided to
Mm,
stay there.
mm,
I can't imagine why he'd want to live in America rather than the wonderful country of United Kingdom. But he went back. He went back over to there. So we do stay in touch most weeks,
mm.
bouncing text messages about property and American politics, as you can imagine.
Is it?
But yeah, it was actually John introduced us. I remember he had you sitting down. He went and grabbed me, brought me over, and said, "You've got to talk to this lady." And we had a chat, and yeah, we've been many a conversation since,
Many,
and
many,
which is
many.
great. So we're going to get into a couple of things here in a moment, but I'm going to just go back to this one slide for anyone who's joined us for the first time and you're wondering what exactly is prop funders, what's it about, why does it exist? Well, prop funders is all about saving property developers and investors time and money by structuring, sourcing, and simplifying property funding. So that's what we're about. That's what we do. And these webinars are part of that as we seek to uh, talk about, educate, discuss all things property. So, Pam, let me hand over to you for a quick sort of hello. Why are you into property? You know, a wee bit about your journey. We'll look at a couple of your properties, and then we want to get into our discussion points today around the budget and the state of the property market. So, over to you.
Oh, cheers, Dave. And thanks for having me on. Welcome, guys. So, 32 years in the game, property development. I started off because, I needed a way out, just like anybody else. And it made sense. Property, it was in my family. I started off in Islington, Hackney, started repurposing small flats with big kitchens, turning them into 4 bedrooms, HMOs. That was all in like Clerkenwell, Islington. And then I did HMOs. and then it went on to Victorian conversions and all of that. But the best thing I ever did was educate myself. Once I educated myself, it's the biggest game changer, guys. I then moved into commercial, and I tell you what, the trade-offs in commercial acquisitions are huge. And that's really what I'm going to be focusing on today. My journey's been amazing. I've had some ups and downs, of course. It's going to be obstacles and challenges in this business, but it's when you turn the adversity into opportunity, it's huge. And I can tell you what now, you lot of family at an amazing time, because that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm literally scaling up again.
And what was it like being on the uh, property show, TV show, Four in a Bed? Was that sort of an
Do you know,
experience? Did you enjoy it?
yeah,
Was it challenging?
with TV, it's funny because, it is what it is. You can't go on TV and fabricate. If you say you've got a £10 million put, people are all over you. They're checking you out. They're looking at you, what you've got. I talk about my grade 1 list, grade 2 listed hotel, etc., and all the stuff I've done. They are checking you out. And I think more than anything else, for me, it's about building good relations. I mean, I'm walking down the street in Somerset and I'll have like an officer come and say, weren't you on Four in a Bed? And it's just that it's a nice feeling. Experience wise, TV is something else. There's a lot of trickery going on in there. Put it that way, Dave.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. But I'm sure it was a great experience, but also great for your own sort of
Mm,
um, branding to actually one be invited on and two to do so well. So I know
mm.
you were very popular. So look, just by way, I mean, I obviously know your background. I know your passion and property. That's something we've always talked about. You're always so enthusiastic, energetic. You're full with that passion for what you do. But just so our audience understand a wee bit more about some of the projects that you've completed and are working on now, and then we'll get into the discussion points for today. So again, sort of like in 45 seconds each. Just talk
Yeah.
us through some of these properties. So this first one, where is it? And there's just some
Okay,
pointers.
so I thought we'd just look at the recent 6 months of what we've been acquiring. So that is grade 1 listed building. It was purchased in an auction. We did our pre-feasibility first. Now, just to be mindful, guys, there's a real burn rate when you're doing these grade 1 listings and these kind of niche models. You've got to really make sure you've got all your T's and C's crossed. So all the right reports, you're working with your QS, you're getting your build costing, etc. Because once that hammer goes down, this is not for the faint-hearted. Now, at 10,000 square feet, check out the figures on this. We purchased this at just under 500,000. The big game changer, now, and I think you've put my power team in there, haven't you, Dave?
Yeah,
The
yeah, we'll
fact
do that at the end. We'll
yeah,
do it
the
at the
VAT
end.
man, the VAT man, Alan, and my accountant, Michael, they managed to save £90,000 on that building. The amount of people that just weren't interested because of the VAT element. Now, for me, when I'm purchasing a building like that, it's not just about the VAT or how much capital allowance, it's about the exit strategy. Now, with this particular model, I'm forcing appreciations others can't see. So I'm working in collaboration with local authorities. I'm looking at their demands and their supply needs. And for this building, it perfectly complemented a supported living unit for women with training on site, and which is literally inclusive. So I'm just super excited about this one here. Castle Street's a grade 1 listed building. I have got experience. You've got to be mindful though, guys, on getting development finance, etc. They want experience. So make sure you're working in collaboration with someone that knows their stuff. And
Yeah,
most of all,
that's a good point. And
yeah,
where was this one again? Sorry, where's the location?
that's all Somerset.
Somerset. Brilliant. Okay,
Mm.
fantastic. Next one then, just purchased
Oh
end
my
of
God.
last year. So
Yeah,
talk to this one.
just really quickly, this is a commercial to residential development. Class E, I love Class E because as a developer, we're always like got issues with building family units. Not to say there's nothing wrong with family units, but when you can't do this and you can't do that, it gives us more flexibility on the development side of things. So we're creating 20-bed unit here again. Downstairs is going to be specifically for disability access. So we're developing with the end user in mind, Dave, here. With walk-in showers, wet rooms, all the things that we can preempt. This is what I love about true development. You can build accordingly. So again, the exit strategy here is supported living, temporary accommodation. Models like this, I'm looking around about 50,000 per month income. But I'm working with people with a real passion to make a difference.
Okay, and this one is currently under construction, so you're in the middle of this one.
We're in the middle of this one. We are on groundworks. They're doing all the plumbing, first fix plumbings for all the flats right now. We've created some gardens at the back, botanic gardens. We've had a few tricky things going on with, we had to get a roof down, which was really thick on the concrete. So the demolition had to be very sensitive, but we managed to get through it. And we're looking to complete that build in July, just in time for my 25th wedding anniversary.
Right, I thought you said 25th birthday there all of a sudden. There was 25th wedding anniversary. Very good.
Oh my
Again,
goodness.
how is Sean keeping? I sort of asked
My
at the
hubby,
start. Is he doing
he's in
well?
his, do you know what? He's in his element. He's on site, he's with the crews. He's got about 6 crews, carpenters, brickies. I'm on site as well because I believe in empowering women in property and we are loving it.
Excellent. I remember I visited you and Sean in St Albans, was it?
Yeah, yeah, St Albans, yeah, that's our neighbourhood, our stomping
Yeah,
ground.
that's right. That was
Yeah,
good.
beautiful place. We're still there, all
Excellent,
good.
excellent. Okay, now just very quickly then, I know you do a lot in Somerset, but when you started off in the good old days, as we look back to the start of the property journey, I know you
Yeah.
did a lot in London, and this was sort of your bread and butter initially. Again, just high level on this one.
Yeah, so basically, this is my bread and butter. Remember, guys, I'm coming from rags to riches here. I'm born and bred in Hackney. I'm not saying I'm Mrs. Whoa. I've just literally, come out of my comfort zone. So that's a 7-bed Victorian in Islington, Tollington Park. I purchased that. I was just literally just constantly purchasing, refinancing. It was working then, guys. Buy, refurbishment, all of that was working then. And we'll talk about what is working in today's climate. So that I still own that property now. However, guys, I am not exiting the market. I will not be selling that. What I will be doing is I'll be working in collaboration with Islington Council, and that is going to be for supported living. I'm repurposing some of my business models.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Now, before we get into the questions then and discussion today, there's been a one come in the Q&A here, so let's just deal with it now in case I forget. So, question, how do the constraints of being a grade one listed impact your project, and how have you planned for this? And are there delays because the fact it's a grade one building?
Right, the grade one, right, so far on the burn rate, I had to get so many reports, a couple of reports done. There was an asbestos report done. Um, Conservation officer was okay. I got them on site. There was a staircase was taken out, so I had to double check what they wanted in. Um, but you know what? I just want to bring to your attention. With grade one listed, you're not looking at you don't have to deal with the thermal issues. You don't have to comply to all the building regulation issues. So there are trade-offs at the same time. People always think grade one listed is going to be a problem, but there's certain things it's exempt from. But in terms of what am I preparing myself for, do you know what? At the end of the day, it's all internals. There's no major structural stuff going on. We're literally just partitioning, etc. I'm working hand in hand with the conservation officer. I've done a grade two already before. I'm good.
Yeah, good. Okay, brilliant. So let's get in then to pick your brain on some of the sort of the questions, if you like, in terms of where we are. First one really is takeaways from the UK spring budget. Did you have a look at that? What are your key thoughts as to some of the headlines out of that?
Well, do you know, for me, the key one is their monetary and fiscal policies changes. And that's really what is causing the biggest barrier to entry for the market right now. And the phasing out of tax relief is huge. And I believe it is having the biggest knock-on effect. Section 24, not being able to claim your mortgage as a tax relief, is really kicking in now. And there's also changes in CGT as well.
Hmm.
You know, I'm a
Yeah.
woman of solutions, Dave. I don't focus on problems unless there's a
Yeah.
solution.
No, that's a really good point because no matter who's in government, there's changes, budgets come along, there's sort of tweaks and changes to what's going on in the property world,
Absolutely.
probably more recently,
Yeah.
given the change of government. But again, there's some, you could say, not unique, but certainly challenging circumstances, inherited by this government and obviously post-COVID, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but in many ways it's about adapting to what's there. I know there's another sort of revised housing targets, and these are talked about from 300,000 under the Conservative government, and all these goals are set. I think very often they're just numbers put out there to make headlines. Um,
Absolutely.
I do think, though, to be fair, this government, and again, you've mentioned a lot about supported living. I think this government is trying to allocate more money towards things like, affordable housing. Do you think that's going to impact sort of on perhaps the opportunities that are there to take old stock and repurpose it for affordable or supported living?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the landlords exiting, the fact that the key indicators, Dave, April 23, we're talking about 151,000 buy-to-let landlords. Literally, homes were on the market for sale, and landlords retiring, we're looking at about 140,000. We've got another survey that's coming up talking 41% of landlords, Dave, are due to exit out. But you
Hmm.
know, the consequences of the renters' rights bill is, it's a huge issue. It's crazy. BlackRock, though, on the other hand, they're looking at values of 206 billion, 109 property assets in the UK, and Lloyd's Bank, who are in the business of banking, is now looking at 50,000 homes in the UK. So what's going on? Come on,
Yeah,
there is money to be made in property. So, my answer to you is that absolutely, with every adversity comes opportunity. And as Warren Buffett says, we've got to be greedy when others are fearful. And
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
there is some issues in terms of deprivation issues that comes with a recession, etc. And the current government that's in right now are pushing, who created the NHS, are looking at a lot of budgets going towards the supported living issues there.
mm,
So, there's a lot going on. And, market forces are temporary. Things will always, monetary and fiscal policies will always keep changing. We've still
yeah,
got to
yeah.
crack on.
No, absolutely. Before we move on to sort of the opportunities and strategies in terms of again the spring budget, again, I found it interesting that there was another attempt, if you like, or whether it's just a hat tipping exercise, time will tell, but there was clearly an attempt to address the planning issue, which, obviously you're involved in some planning for some of your projects, but certainly in recent years, on the back end of the crowdfunding platform that I was involved in, we had a number of planning projects. I mean, some of them are still not through the planning process. They haven't been turned down. There's just this elongated, challenging, frustrating process. And I know the spring budget talked about trying to delegate some of the planning decisions, if you like, to down the chain of command. Is that something you think would help the market if planning could be achieved sooner, or at least decisions were made sooner?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's really crippled the market. The amount of people, developers that I'm speaking to, stuff is just literally just sitting. Land deals are just sitting in planning. That is what is causing the knock-on effect. And you'd think with 300,000 homes that needs to be built, they'd be more flexible on planning. But I do believe that changes are due to come. We're looking at a 23% increase in prices in the next 4 or 5 years. So that comes with the flexibility of planning as well, from what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
Green belt, they're not touching, absolutely
yeah.
not.
And I suppose good news to the government, despite all the challenges with their budgets. And again, opinions on political parties, political strategies, and budgets are a bit like belly buttons. Everyone has one. But certainly, if you look at the economic forecast, the Office for Budget Responsibilities, they're certainly predicting a degree of growth in the UK
Mhm.
economy. And I suppose any growth, even how small, normally, I'm sure you would agree, would have a knock-on effect in the housing market and bring a bit of confidence back to particularly first-time buyers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's David, it's really about the exit strategy. If you like, for instance, there's been a lot of changes on capital allowance. My capital allowance guy, Usman, he should be on this talk right now. And there's still capital allowance gains. They've reduced some. I'm not the capital allowance expert here, but I highly recommend, as a property investor, when you're purchasing, look at what trade-offs they are, etc. I can't look at all those barriers. I've also got to look at my exit strategy. I've got to look at my long-term plans of how I'm scaling up. Otherwise, I'm not going to leverage what I'm doing. I'm not going to put the fear in my mind, Dave.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I agree with that. So they're
Mm.
just some of the key takeaways. In many ways, it was a pretty benign spring budget in terms of property in some ways, but I call it tinkering around the edges as opposed to being anything sort of drastic. Um, moving on then to this landlord exiting the market. This has been talked about a lot in recent years. You're looking at the whole sort of baby boomer sector of the market. People who had, buy-let portfolios are now at an age where they're just looking to exit, but also those who are just frustrated with some of the changes you've mentioned around, you know, tax relief and capital gains tax, etc. There's no doubt that there is certainly a momentum of landlords seeking to exit the market. Certainly, in my understanding and experience, would you agree with? Are you hearing that talked about at property networking events? People in your own property group, is that something that you think is tangible, that people are genuinely looking to exit for a variety of reasons?
Oh God, yeah, Dave. Look, I showed you the figures earlier. We talked about 151,000 coming out. It's been some properties have been sold, and 41% of landlords coming out. Predicted survey 24. Guys, the financial implications of interest rates, taxations, high interest rates are all not helping. Also, there's regulatory issues, the EPCs, all affecting operational costs. There's just so much renters' rights bill. It is dampening the market, but at the same time, I'm focusing on exit strategies. I'm repurposing my business model. One key point, Dave, is remote property investor. Check me out. I've got a portfolio in Islington, Hackney, but I'm still remote investing 200 miles away, and I'm doing really, really well. So this tells you that there are business models that work, and it's really about becoming a really intelligent developer now. It's about truly understanding the market, the demand and supplies, looking at what's needed, what's missing, what is the gap, especially when it comes to temporary accommodation and supported living. I'm now a provider for supported living and temporary accommodation in collaboration with Somerset Council. I can actually proudly say that. And that's really come from knowing my research. The knowledge is important. And also providing a damn good service. My temporary accommodation model with Somerset Council is impeccable. I've got an incredible power team. They talk about all this remote property investor, but on the ground level, you still have to have people. You need people to work organizations to a certain extent.
Yeah,
Maybe
no, I
more.
agree with that, and we're going to definitely look at your power team, sort of towards the end. So, you've obviously mentioned, some of the opportunities that you have grasped, but even just taking a slight step back, I know you have chosen your path, but what other opportunities do you think are available, let's say, to someone who wants to maybe exit their buy-let portfolio but want to stay involved in the property business, either as a developer themselves or as an investor, or if someone was just starting out now in property, where do you think the opportunities are, say in London, but then also throughout the rest of the UK?
Oh, stick with Dave. Stay with Dave. Dave, you're amazing because this is why I say this. I'm going to kind of do some backward engineering on your question, Dave.
Okay.
The issue right now is finance, and I'm really talking about decentralizing finance. My biggest issue as a developer right now is look, I'm a born and bred buy-to-let girl. All the banks know me, Shawbrook and Birmingham Midshires and all the typical banks. They all know me. And I'm really grateful for them. I'm so, so grateful where I started. But however, the game is changing. And one of the biggest issues, Dave, why people are leaving, interest rates. So what do? Do you look at the different funding mechanisms that are around you? Now, you are a crowdfunder, Dave. I think that's fantastic. You understand that when I was looking at working with you, one of the things I really liked is that you understand the pressures and what developers have to go through. And when you're working with someone in synergy like that, it's a whole different game. Landlords, look at collaborations. Look at working with people with experience. Look at, you've got your pension sitting in commercials. If you can get them out and put them into a business model, that's more lucrative. But most of all, look at the different funding options. Hence, Hunting Property Fund. Oh, what an amazing solution to some of the problems. And
Yeah.
you know what, Dave? We can always get the deals as well when we're working together.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I'll just just for the sake of the record, your comment about pensions and moving pensions was, of course, just a suggestion to consider and was not intended to be financial advice, just
Oh yeah,
to
yeah,
keep
just a
everything right.
suggestion. Here's the
So
caveat.
of course, it was just something to
Of course.
consider
Yeah,
and to take the appropriate advice on. But you're absolutely
yeah,
right. And I'm actually working with a couple of companies on SaaS pensions at the minute.
yeah.
And the more I look into that, the more I'm really excited by that source of funding that can be brought to bear, particularly on commercial projects, but actually can still be involved in residential projects. Some people think SaaS pension can't be involved in residential projects. Not the case. Genuinely diverse commercial vehicle structure allows, in certain circumstances, for SaaSes to be used for residential property. But that's a conversation for another day. But I think you're right. The opportunities are out there. Very often, the challenge is funding, and therefore it's about finding the various funding sources, be they institutional, mainstream, bridging
Mm.
commercial or whatever. But then outside that, are there other sources of funding like crowdfunding, both equity and debt? Is it working with a family office? Is it working with a group of high net worth individuals? Is it forming a property fund, which we're having a conversation around, where high net worth people can sort of pool their money into an alternative investment fund manager type structure. So yeah, there are opportunities to take advantage of, but you must have the cash. You've got to have access to the funding, which is great. So in terms of the strategies, and I know you enjoy this, and yeah, obviously we've shared some webinars together. I've been on webinars where you've been the guest listening to you. Um, the format escapes me that we used to be on a Friday morning. What was that? What was that medium that was a real craze after
Oh, the
after
clubhouse, clubhouse.
Clubhouse? Absolutely. You used to host your Clubhouse. Wake up in the
Mm.
morning. You used to have an early morning one, and there was just about yawning and getting started, and there was Pam Lindsay, just enthusiasm, passion, right off the top of the stage. So yeah. So listen, you've talked a lot about strategies. So I know you've alluded to it a bit, but just someone listening in now wondering what strategies should they consider going forward, what would you say to them?
First of all, I'm a great believer in collaboration. 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
Mhm.
I'm forming a Unity collaboration where when I'm purchasing, I'm happy to give away lifetime shares, literally. That's one of the business models that's working. I like what you were saying, Dave, about the hunting fund. I think that's incredible, especially where I'm getting uplifts. I think one of those pictures you showed, I've got one that's literally got blue chip companies downstairs, but we've got no planning upstairs. This building here is 900,000, but I can tell you this now, we're looking for my exit strategy of 70,000 per month. I can't do it on my own, but I'm collaborating with like-minded people. So that strategy is working. The property hunting fund, however, is a game changer, Dave, because you know what's the most frustrating? It's not having the capital there when you see a deal.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
I think that's going to give us competitive advantage as developers. Could you imagine? I'm in collaboration with Somerset Council. These guys are telling me the exact hotspots of what they need, how long for, etc. Now, my biggest barrier is getting these deals quickly, securing them as quick as possible, so we just keep leveraging and building empires. So hence, when you talk to me about the hunting fund, I thought that's just a perfect synergy. As I
Hmm.
say on Channel 4, Dave, sorry, we're fully booked.
The way to be, the way to be. Okay. Now, um, anything else you want to comment just on sort of wrapping up around the budget, around opportunities, strategies, anything else you want to just add to that?
I just think my moral of the day is like, don't make the fear stop you from leveraging up, because I almost think that there's a media kind of brainwash there to make you believe that there's no more money in property and it doesn't work anymore. But the truth is, I'm here. Look, I'm an old school investor, but I'm buying right now. I'm doing live developments. So once you get the fear in your mind, you're not going to scale up. You've got to focus on what you can control right now and start surrounding yourself with like-minded people. Get out your comfort zone, because there's a lot of money to be made right now.
Mhm. Perfect. So I'm going to just stop sharing for a second. So you're just on the full screen here. In a second, I'm going to put up your power team slide. But I think this will be really beneficial for the audience, because I know this gets talked about a lot,
Oh, shit.
but you actually have really focused on building this power team, as you call it, your collaborative network of professionals. You spent a lot of time developing that, and I think you've obviously shown some big projects, which,
Yep.
as you've rightly said, you can't do on your own. So I just thought I'd give you a chance, first of all, to talk about the importance of power team, and then I'll reshare the slide on that. So why do you go for the power team the way you do, and why is it so important?
Oh, power team. Company structure, Dave. That's the first thing we're going to talk about. You need your company structure right. When we're talking about all the renters reformers bills and all these monetary fiscal policies, get the correct company structure first. Yeah?
Yeah.
So what do you need for that? You need an accountant that understands property. Look at the latest deal that we just purchased, that 10,000 square foot building, Dave. The amount of buyers that were put off of it because it had VAT on top, 90 grand. They couldn't see. But my VAT man, and then he said, my fat man, he's in my power team group, Alan. What would I have done without him? 90 grand on completion, saved. So your power team is also important. Also, your conveyancers, your solicitors that understand. Now, as a developer, this is 32 years is in this brain. I will push my solicitors. So I will look at, like, have you looked at section 106? Because if I suddenly find out, oh my God, there's a sales bill that's hiding, then my number crunching is not going to work. So my power team is super important. My QS, Dave, right now, I've just had a valuation. Do you know what? The valuer's come in and he's trying to tell me the build cost is going to be 800,000. My QS and my architects are all over him right now, Dave, because we know
Mhm.
what the true build cost is going to be. My power team is also Dewsons, my local suppliers. Those
Great.
guys will get all my rates for me. They'll work out my bill of quantities. So I'm talking power team right down to virtual assistant levels, having the right virtual assistants.
Mhm.
Super important.
Yeah.
Brokers, commercial brokers. Mark Sharp, hot guy. Not a broker that just finds you a deal and he's off. He's around. He's checking you out right through drawdown.
Yeah, yeah.
Residential brokers, the whole lot, Dave. Says here,
They they
let
are on the screen now are some of the ones that you've just mentioned. So you've mentioned some of them there, but I think it shows those on the in the audience just the size of your power team.
Yeah, I must mention
So
Fong Yap. She's amazing. She's my right hand girl. She's like my just my right hand. She's very intelligent, chemical engineer by trade. She's been with me for many, many years. Chloe's good. Obviously my husband, he's just no point mentioning that soulmate of mine. But everybody on
who
there,
the one
you know,
the one who keeps you right? Is that what you're saying?
the one that
Sean
keeps
keeps you
me,
right?
yeah, on a level. I'm in the
Exactly.
clouds.
Exactly. So yeah, see that I mean it just shows you all your different ones. You've got someone does your social media because again you're very sort of a high profile on that, so you tend to outsource that. You've got your brokers, you've got an interior design consultant I see there, which is obviously vital if you're looking for certain exits, perhaps if you're trying to sell something. Um, your VA then you use the sort of international VAs, so you find that works.
Yeah, I've got international VAs, but I've also got UK VAs as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've
Which
got
so you use
yeah.
both. Yeah, I see Melissa there. Now here's the one I absolutely love, and I think this is really important, and I love the fact you have this in your power team, and that is Rebecca, your fitness coach, because we tend to be so focused as
Rebecca.
professionals on doing the deeds, burning the candle at both ends, running all around the country. But since I've known you, you've always said, "Hey, there's a balanced life here." You've got a wonderful daughter, and I can remember being in your house, and she's waiting on exam results that coming in that week, and I know you definitely balance your life out. So the fact that you put a fitness coach as part of your power team, I think is really, really important.
Dave, when you say Rebecca, I get really excited because right now I'm on a 3 day water fast.
Ouch.
3 days water.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm about balance. I'm about reset. There's no health without wealth. Come on, guys.
We-
So
We've just we've just lost two-thirds of the viewers when you mentioned the 3 day water fast there. No, but I understand. But again, this I mean, just to speak briefly to that. Why do you think it is so important to have this type of input from a professional on your lifestyle?
guys, listen, when the stress hits you, right, it's not, these deals are not plain sailing. You've got to know how you're going to deal with the obstacles. Now, whether it's meditation, whether it's training, I'm a training addict. I train like 6 times a week. Hence, that's why I'm having a retreat. It's going to be property and training. So we're going to make money and we're going to come out looking good, as we do, Dave. Yeah, but juicing, I juice, etc. I have seen, Dave, so many developers fall due to health.
Hmm.
And I have watched and I have learned what stress can do. So, unless we are beating the stress through mindfulness, whether it's just taking time out with my husband, you know what we go and do in Somerset? I say, Sean, can we get away from sight? I just want to see the llamas. Or I'll go for long runs. And on those long runs, I will meditate or I'll visualize my next deal.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
the
Brilliant.
mindfulness is so important and looking after yourself. I'm not sick. I'm not on no medications, Dave. Thank God. Touch wood.
Yeah,
But I'm on
yeah, yeah.
nothing.
No, but
Just
it is. You're right. There's so many people succumb to bad health or ill health through pressure and stress, particularly when a deal goes wrong and there's money on the line, investor money on the line, personal guarantees on the line, and you can't be at your best in performance wise if you're not getting sleep, you're not eating the right food, if you're not healthy. So again, I always find absolutely fantastic that as part of your power team, you actually highlight the fact that you've actually got a fitness coach. So the last one we'll mention, well, obviously you've got Andrea as your business consultant, which is always good. That somebody you can go and talk to about business and bounce ideas off, decisions that have to be made, which is important. But I just noticed your funding specialist, top right, is this young fella from Northern Ireland.
Oh, well, my funding specialist, you, Dave, come on.
Not young
Dave,
anymore, unfortunately.
Dave, listen, I'm focusing right now on some big planning uplifts, and I'm coming to you for our property hunting fund. And we've got Andrew, who's the business consultant, my ex-partner, business partner from Colchester. Yeah, we are gonna kill it. And with collaboration with Somerset Council, with Rebecca doing fitness retreats for anyone who wants to learn and earn and get and look good. It's just a perfect synergy, really.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's very, very, very exciting. So I'll give you sort of one wrap-up sentence here in a couple of minutes. I have just a couple of tidy-ups on this, and then you can have the final say in about 2 minutes. So for those that haven't seen the latest issue of the podcast, we've got Lorraine Thomas. It was a very, very popular one. I know a lot of people were waiting. We were getting emails and messages. When's Lorraine's podcast coming out? So it is now out, a couple of weeks, and you can go on to our YouTube channel. You'll also get it on a range of other audio platforms as well. But go to the social media site, particularly the YouTube, the Property Funding Podcast, and you'll be able to tune into Lorraine's. We've got a number of other ones about to come out, and of course the library of what's there. So, Pam, I've been chasing you for about 9 months to get you on the podcast, and our diaries just never merge. But we're going to have to get this fact, get this in the diary, get you in studio, and let's get a much more detailed, in-depth talk about your life and your journey. So, do you know Lorraine? I have no idea if you know Lorraine or not, do you?
Yeah, I've seen her on the network. Definitely. She's very influential.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant story, fantastic story of her journey. So
Mm.
yeah, if anyone wants to do that, get in there. Obviously, anyone wants to contact myself, you can reach out. I've spent today really focusing on Pam and the budget, so we haven't talked that much about prop funders. We can do that maybe next month again if we need to. But certainly for any developers looking for particularly alternative funding, then reach out to us. You can see my email address there, david@propfunders.com. And that really brings us to the end of today. The next webinar will be the 21st of May. It'll be more of a panel discussion next month. What I'm actually considering doing is actually Pam bringing on a company that is involved in a lot of currency exchange, as particularly with what's happening around the world with Mr. Trump on the tariffs. There's a lot of ups and downs and changes when it comes to the economic landscape. So we're going to be looking at perhaps the importance of keeping an eye on currency fluctuations for property investors and buying, selling, investing. All of that becomes very relevant. If you start to save money on your currency exchange, then that's important to do. So I will stop screen sharing and give you the last word, Pam. So you're on screen. So thank you for joining us today. I think that's been very useful and beneficial. But any last sort of tips, words of wisdom, golden nuggets, whatever the phrase is, for our audience today, please?
For me, Dave, it's all about working with like-minded people, sharing that vision, people that you feel comfortable with. And I believe that we've got empires to create. I don't want to pass away and no one forgets this person that I didn't share information. Share, 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 guys. That's how you leverage up big time. And, there's legacy for life. There's generational wealth out there that we can create together. And you know what? I'm super excited for 2025 and beyond.
Absolutely fantastic. That's a great place to end. So, listen, can I thank everyone who has joined live today? Really appreciate that. As usual, we will have the recording up on YouTube this afternoon, and we normally send out a link to those who attended live, and then we also send one out usually to those who are just on our distribution list, if you like. So, that's fantastic. So, Pam, hey, thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate that. Podcast next. And we'll be talking about some of your projects, obviously, very, very shortly. So have a great rest of the week. Everyone, take care. Every success in your property journey. See you again next month. Bye bye now. Bye bye.
Thanks, Dave.